I just wanted to give you guys an update on what is going on with the Rancho Cucamonga situation in regards to the shelter retaliation and whatnot. They just had their latest city council meeting a couple days ago, and I intended to go, and then traffic got the better of me, and I couldn't get out there in time, so I was unable to give a public comment. But there has been developments, and it hasn't been good. And basically, to catch people up on what's happened thus far, if you're not familiar, new management there that's been there for about a year has fired about 5 of their volunteers. They're really good, long-standing volunteers. And this was done for retaliatory reasons, because these volunteers were speaking out just a few things about conditions, about what's going on the inside, speaking out against the manager's tactics. They were ultimately fired. It was clear retaliation, and we've been going to city council meetings. They have. I went to one, but they've been going to city council meetings to speak out about what's happening and that they were retaliated against in an effort to get their positions as volunteers back. So I was there last month at the second meeting that took place in January. There's 2 meetings each month. I spoke, as did a bunch of other people, and literally the dude who spoke before me, his name was Jesse. He's a shelter employee. He came to give a supportful public comment towards the volunteers. He came to speak on their behalf. He came to also speak out against the current manager, Veronica Fincher, and some of the stuff that he's witnessed, and just to give, basically, just to be there to support the fire volunteers. I go up after he speaks, and I literally, the first thing out of my mouth was to make a joke. Well, there's been 5 volunteers. This dude, and I pointed to him, he was sitting behind me, will probably be the 6th person fired. And I was joking, but I was kind of being serious, and it was like right out my mouth as soon as I went up there.
I know I am risking retaliation by being a whistleblower, but I will no longer be silent when I see inappropriate acts and the mistreatment towards the animals and the volunteers.
I'm here on behalf of the 5, soon to be probably 6 volunteers once this guy's fired, for being here and speaking out. Well, lo and behold, 2 weeks after that city council meeting, which is streamed on the internet and which is capable of being watched by shelter employees, and I also did a video, so the videos are out there, the public comments, they've seen them. 2 weeks after this city council event, this dude, Jesse, the shelter employee, was put on administrative leave. And guess what? He's just been fired. He was just fired. So, is that a coincidence? I think not. That's not a coincidence. First, they're firing volunteers because they're speaking out, and then we're led to believe that no, it wasn't because they spoke out. It wasn't because they were bringing light to this situation or that situation. It's actually because they wore the wrong color pants, or it was because they had their shoes untied and it looked unprofessional. Really? That's why they were fired? For real? You, as city council members, have been given notice that these 4 or 5 different people have been fired. You didn't want to do anything about it, so apparently you're cool with the retaliation towards volunteers because, silence is an act in and of itself. You haven't done anything. They've been going to meetings for a couple months now, for many months, more than a couple months. You're well aware of this. But now an official worker has been fired, a worker who just a month ago was standing right in front of you, giving you a public comment as a shelter employee, and he's no longer a shelter employee. We're all capable of putting 2 and 2 together, especially in light of what's happened with the volunteers. That just gives more credence to our argument that they were retaliated against. So this video is to speak directly into the camera. I don't know if you'll watch it, probably not, but city council members, where do you stand? Where do you stand? I intended to go to this last meeting. I will be at the next one. But this is what I would have said. Where do you stand? Where do you stand? Are you for retaliation in the workplace against employees? And what's worse is against volunteers? their energy. This is free labor, essentially, and all for the animals' benefit. So they're fired. Said nothing, did nothing. That's a stance in and of itself, but I'm asking you, now that the employee's been fired, where do you stand? Can we get a public comment on this? Can we get a public comment from you, city council members, on this? Is this okay? Is the retaliation okay? Is that appropriate? Is this appropriate behavior? I just want something on the record, because you guys sit up there and you don't say anything, and people keep coming and keep speaking out and giving public comments, and we can't even get on the agenda, and it's like, what do we do next? So I just want to know where you stand. Give me a comment. Give me a response. Give me a response that's pro-Veronica, that backs the management. Your actions are already doing that, which is nothing. There's no action, so we're just led to assume that you're complicit with this behavior. A lot of people don't think this is right. So if you are for retaliation, just come out and say so. But give some kind of indication where you stand. These are good people. These are honest, genuine folks that are helping animals, that have a long-standing track record of helping animals and progressing their shelter forward. Is retaliation going to be stood for? Or is it going to be responded to? That's all these volunteers want, essentially, is their position back. Their position back, because guess who suffers? The animals. The animals suffer. When volunteers are getting axed for speaking out, for posting things on Facebook, for making YouTube videos that advocate for the dogs that are in their shelter, and they're getting fired because of that stuff, that's unacceptable. And now there's a new precedent. There's new proof. A shelter employee has been fired. And you know who he is, because he spoke right in front of you. What are you going to do about it?